Donald Trump converted to Judaism 2 years ago, according to White House official. Here it is. That's his blog. He said, President Donald Trump converted to Judaism 2 years ago and joined Chabad Lubavitch Synagogue in New York City.
You knew damn well I was a snake before you took me in.
It's an honor to be here with the first Jewish president of the United States.
U.S. President Trump is urging Israel to pardon Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu in a corruption case.
We have to get the people of our country, of this country, to love Israel more. I have to tell you that. We have to do it. We have to get them to love Israel more.
Источник зла – это Бог, не сатана. В иудаизме сатана – это есть Бог.
We have over here in Hebrew, Lemalot Shivim Shana, to fulfill 70 years.
And again, Christians, get out and vote just this time. You won't have to do it anymore. 4 more years, you know what? It'll be fixed, it'll be fine. You won't have to vote anymore, my beautiful Christians. I love you, Christians. I'm a Christian. I love you. Get out. You gotta get out and vote. In 4 years, you don't have to vote again. We'll have it fixed so good you're not gonna have to vote. Give thanks to Hashem for his work is good, his kindness endures forever. Presented to President Donald J. Trump for his extraordinary and heroic efforts. I like that very much.
I'm going to repeat it again because it's so true. President Trump is the greatest friend that Israel has ever had in the White House.
I became president and was the best president ever for the people of Israel and for Jewish people. The best president ever. On top of everything else, I gave them more than $20 billion, Israel. And I said, when I did it, I said, I'm the best friend they ever had. I gave them the Abraham Accords. You knew damn well I was a snake before you took me in. Saudi Arabia giving $25 million, Qatar, all of these countries. These are people that kill women and treat women horribly, and yet you take their money. Not a gift to me, it's a gift to the Department of Defense. And you should know better. Why don't you give back the money that you've taken from certain countries that treat certain groups of people so horribly? You should be embarrassed asking that question. They're giving us a free jet. I could say, no, don't give us. I want to pay you $1 billion or 400 million or whatever it is. Or I could say, thank you very much. Why don't you give back the money? I think it would be a great gesture. I thought it was a beautiful gesture. Now, there are those that say we shouldn't be accepting gifts to the Defense Department. And I would say only a stupid person would say that. It should have never happened. And I think you owe an explanation to the American people. We're giving to everybody else. Why wouldn't I accept the gift? If I ever said that, that's quid pro quo.
About 1:30, daughter-in-law came to the room and said, Dad, there's ice out there. So I locked my bedroom, and then Sunday they break in. They just came to the room and knocking the door. So I just, okay, just open the door, see what they want. And then Sunday there's a guns pointing at us. I like, whoa. And then they go, you come out here. I go, okay. And then I came out there, raised my hand up, and then they said put my hands on my back. So I did, and then suddenly they just handcuffed me. They didn't ask for my ID or anything until after they handcuffed me, and then they asked me, do I have my ID? I go, yeah, it's in the room. And then my daughter-in-law, she tried to get my ID, but they didn't want to see it no more. Yeah, they just took me out there. Yesterday was, I don't feel like it's freedom.
Okay, so guess what this is? This is a 4-year-old child. Do you see this adorable child with the bunny hat and the shirt and the little backpack who looks like he's on his way to school? He's not. That is an ICE agent holding his backpack as he is abducted this morning in Minneapolis, a 4-year-old child. His face has been blurred to protect his identity. Here's a video of the abduction.
Agarraron a un niño también también se lo están llevando los hijos de su puta madre. Perdón que diga eso, pero qué poca madre.
We don't know a lot so far. We know that the father was taken and the son, and that ICE apparently used the son to try to lure the mother so that they could abduct her as well. She is now frantic. She doesn't know where her husband is. She doesn't know where her child is. She is on Facebook groups with moms. People are trying to help her. You guys, this is not sustainable. This is not a country any of us want to live in. This child could be yours. He could be mine. He was on his way to school. Now he's being essentially trafficked by ICE. So I ask you this, if you still support this, how is this making you safer? How is this about crime? How is this about only we're getting the worst of the worst? Is that the worst of the worst? No. The people doing this are. It is time everyone understood that and help us fight.
He's a citizen! He's a citizen! He's a citizen! He's a citizen! That's my brother-in-law!
What's your name? Jonathan Aguilar Garcia. I'm not a U.S. citizen.
We're citizens! Get your ID! We're native! What are you doing? Why'd you hit him? No! Stop! What are you doing? No! Why my nephew?
He's trying to go to work! Oh, what? You're some crazy. I got no heart, for real! No heart! No heart! She's a female! You guys hit her! How you guys get arrested? We're from the United States, bro! You better break the U.S., bro! To school, bro! I was going to school! I was going to school!
Oh my God! Stop doing this!
Get out the elevator!
Take a look at this right here.
What's your name?
Debbie Brockman, I work for WGN. Let them know.
I got you. Yep. Debbie Browning?
Brockman.
Brockman, WGN. Hope you're proud of yourself. You guys want to share your names too, or just going to cover your face?
So this is the point that we are at in our country. We are arresting journalists. We are arresting the free press. This is the actions of fascists and Nazis. They did the same shit in Germany starting around 1933. And now it's occurring in the United States. Y'all don't get it, do you? And you get all bent out of shape and your panties in a wad because we keep calling you fascist and Nazis. Quit doing fascist shit and Nazi shit, and we will quit calling you fascists and Nazis.
Today I got arrested for being in a street. I wasn't impeding traffic. I was just scolding Nazis for their bad decisions. And they came up, they lined up, and then they sprinted after me. And they chased me for blocks. I was running for my life. I was scared. I don't know what they're going to do to me. They're fucking Nazis. A woman was filming me from her minivan, and I begged her to let me in because I was scared. So I jumped in the back of her minivan, and you know what they did? They came up and they put a gun to her face. They pulled a pistol on her and put a gun to her face. This is not America. This is not freedom. This is fascism. It's here now. While I was detained, they put us into a cell without ventilation. They put us in there, and people were pepper sprayed, so we're just coughing the whole time. They didn't read me my rights. They didn't read any of their rights. No one got to speak to a lawyer. One man was in there. They beat his face in. He was bleeding. His face was smashed in for the crime of blowing a whistle in public. Wake the fuck up, America. Stop pretending like the midterms are gonna save you. Get off your fucking asses and resist.
Get a fucking life. Fucking losers. Fucking cowards. Take the mask off, bitch. Take the mask off! Take the mask off! Let's see your face! What are you scared of? I thought you're cracker ass motherfucker.
$170 billion for ICE, but they complain about the Affordable Care Act and the tax subsidies that help Americans afford health insurance. $3.5 trillion in tax cuts for the wealthiest Americans, but they won't work with us on child care. $40 billion for Argentina, but cuts to nutrition programs. $1 trillion is what Trump wants to get oil out of Venezuela. Nothing for affordable housing. My friends, budgets are about priorities. Republicans aren't prioritizing you.
Do you know who this child is? He is 6 years old. 6. And the U.S. government just took him from his father. This little boy is Chinese. He showed up to a routine ICE check-in with his dad. They did what they were told to do. They followed the rules. They trusted the process. ICE took the father and then they took the child. They sent them to 2 different locations. A child who came in with a parent was suddenly labeled unaccompanied. Unaccompanied because the state made him that way. His father doesn't know where his son is. No goodbye, no phone call, no explanation a 7-year-old could understand. They're going to say it's procedure. They're going to tell us it's the law. But when the government removes a child from their parent and potentially transports them across state lines and places them in a system they cannot escape and denies the parent access, this is not care. This is not protection. This is state-sanctioned child trafficking. And we all know the state is very complicit in that specific topic. Trauma is not an accident here. It is the mechanism. If this were your child, you wouldn't debate semantics. You would call it what it is. Family separation, government-approved abuse. Children disappearing into systems we pretend are humane. 7 years old is not a threat. A child holding a father's hand is not a crime. So before someone tells you that this is normal or necessary, please ask yourself, who benefits from a system that treats children like cargo? Oh, gosh.
Let me tell you something that should make every single person in this country sick to their stomach. ICE just admitted out loud that it illegally held 400 children. Not for a day over the limit, not for a week, some for 5 months. Children locked up for longer than the court says is even remotely legal. And wait, because it gets worse. Much, much worse. Court filings say kids were fed moldy food, broccoli with worms crawling in it. A child had an eye injury and ICE let them bleed for 2 days without medical care. Another child's foot was broken because staff dropped a metal pole on it. That is not a detention system. That is state-sanctioned child neglect. That is abuse. And while all this is happening, ICE quietly stuck families in hotels, sometimes longer than the court allowed 72 hours, with no explanation at all. The law says 20 days. ICE said screw it and held kids for 168, nearly half a year. Babies, toddlers, teenagers. And while the Trump administration tries to end the very agreement designed to protect these children, and the rules and accountability so that this can get even worse, a judge now has to decide whether to intervene because ICE clearly won't police itself. And if this is what they're openly admitting, imagine what they aren't saying. This is not immigration policy. This is not order. This is cruelty, deliberate, systematic cruelty toward children. And if that doesn't enrage you, you are not paying attention. A Chicago business owner is dead after weeks in ICE custody, and his family says this never should have happened. Nenko Ganshev was 56. He lived in the U.S. for 30 years, he owned a business, he paid taxes, and he was married to a U.S. citizen. He was diabetic and kept asking for medical help. ICE arrested him when he showed up for his green card interview. He didn't run. He didn't hide. He did everything correctly. He was sent to a private ICE detention center in Michigan run by the Geo Group. His wife says he wasn't given proper food, he wasn't given proper medical care or accommodations. For months, he told his family his health was deteriorating. A federal judge later ruled he should be released on bond. ICE even admitted he wasn't a public safety risk, but the release was blocked. Then Monday night, his wife waited for his call, and it never came. The ICE locator said he'd been released. The next morning, the Bulgarian embassy called. Nenko was dead. ICE says he was found unresponsive in his cell. CPR, EMS, pronounced dead. Then silence. No call, no explanation. It was also their wedding anniversary. ICE called him a criminal. Court records show no serious charges. Way too many people have died in ICE custody this year. This is the deadliest year on record. And Nenko didn't die naturally. He died because the system decided he didn't matter.
In case you were wondering whether or not the Department of Justice is redacting the Epstein files to hide Donald Trump's name from them, they 100% are, and I'll prove it to you right now. I was just sent an email that shows the Department of Justice under Attorney General Pam Bondi may have made an embarrassing mistake by releasing two of the exact same documents, identical papers, one with Donald Trump's name and the other with Donald Trump's name blacked out throughout the entire page. As you can see, the first document on the top outlines a girl's relations with Donald Trump and everything that happened, and the bottom document shows the exact same paragraph, but Trump's name blacked out in every single instance. In case you want to check yourself, the document with the redactions is 1296-17. The document without the redactions is 1332-16. This then begs the question, how many other documents in the 2.5 gigabytes that were released, despite there being 300 gigabytes that are still being held by the Department of Justice, how many more documents that are completely covered with black are really just hiding the current president from his crimes that he committed with Jeffrey Epstein?
All these babies, nobody knows what happened to any of these babies. But there's the George Bush eating the... There's actually... So are you telling me that there is a possibility that there is a satanic pedophile elite that's raping young girls, forcing them to give birth, and then taking the babies and then sacrificing and eating the babies? Like,
I'm calling for no tax on tips. No.
Does this tax bill continue the payroll tax on people's tips?
Yes, it does.
No tax on overtime.
Overtime. The president said your overtime will be tax-free. Does this bill continue the payroll tax on overtime?
It does not exempt overtime from the payroll tax.
And no tax on Social Security benefits for our great seniors.
The president said he's going to remove taxes on Social Security. Does this bill remove taxes on Social Security benefits?
Does not change Social.
So this is a tax decrease for the wealthiest Americans in our country.
Gabriela Rico Jimenez, she was a Mexican model and disappeared back in 2009. Of course, yet another person disappearing. She was filmed outside of a luxury hotel screaming about how they were eating people. Everyone thought she was crazy. Of course, the woman is crazy, not to be believed. Don't believe the woman. Yes, she was visibly distressed. Wouldn't you be? Making accusations against highly powerful, prominent people in society that they were eating people? That's crazy, right? She's gotta be crazy. This says here, on the yacht, he witnessed babies being dismembered, their intestines removed, and individuals eating the feces from those intestines. I guess they're just gonna call all of us crazy now.
On July 10th, 2025, I was confronted by ICE agents on my way to work. I want you to understand exactly what that looked like. Not because I want sympathy, but because it exposes a crack in the law that must be fixed. I was driving to my job as a security guard at a licensed farm in Camarillo, California. Federal immigration agents were lined across the road leading to the farm. I identified myself as a U.S. citizen and a veteran, but that didn't matter. Agents smashed my window, sprayed tear gas and pepper spray into my car, dragged me out. I was choking on gas, unable to breathe, while officers shouted conflicting commands even after I complied. They pinned me down, one kneeling on my back and another kneeling on my neck, while my hands were already behind me. I was first taken to a Navy base where agents collected my DNA, and after that, I was taken to a detention center and held for 3 days without charges. No phone call, no lawyer, no medical care, even though my skin burned from the chemicals. I wasn't allowed to shower.
On day one of his second term, Trump pardoned Ross Ulbricht, the creator of the largest online drug market of its time. Then he pardoned a Chicago gang leader, a Baltimore drug kingpin, and even the former president of Honduras, who helped move 400 tons of cocaine into the U.S. In total, Trump has pardoned at least 10 people for major drug crimes this term, and nearly 90 more in his first term. But at the same time, he's threatening military strikes on Venezuela, claiming their government is fueling the drug trade. He's even pushed the Pentagon to sink boats he suspects of smuggling drugs. Without evidence they were headed to the U.S., experts say the strikes don't work. Fentanyl isn't coming from Venezuela, it's coming through Mexico. And addiction here at home is getting worse as treatment programs face hundreds of millions in cuts. Even Republicans are asking, how do you pardon drug traffickers while threatening war over drugs? One drug policy expert put it simply, there's no consistency. The American people deserve to know, why is Trump pardoning drug criminals?
Following is an official communication from the Department of Homeland Security. To all ICE officers, you have federal immunity in the conduct of your duties. Anybody who lays a hand on you or tries to stop you or tries to obstruct you is committing a felony. You have immunity to perform your duties, and no one, no city official, no state official, no illegal alien, no leftist agitator, or domestic insurrectionist can prevent you from fulfilling your legal obligations and duties. The Department of Justice has made clear that if officials cross that line into obstruction, into criminal conspiracy against the United States or against ICE officers, then they will face justice. That was posted at 6:06 p.m. on January 13th, 2026 to the official Homeland Security Twitter account with a video of a government official repeating those exact words on Fox News.
Imagine your child was just kidnapped by kidnappers and the ransom is $5,000. What would you do? You don't have the $5,000, so you call the police and you have the kidnappers arrested, charged, and thrown in prison for kidnapping your child. Unless the kidnappers are the police. Well, something that even mainstream media completely ignored and did not at all bring up about the big, beautiful fascist bill is that ICE agents now have the authority when they arrest you for whatever reason, whether you're documented or non-documented, and put you into an ICE detainment facility, your family has to come up with $5,000 come January 1st and on to get you out of detention. Yeah, that's extortion. That is kidnapping. That is America today. So, good morning, Vietnam!
Were you ever trained to use a 5-year-old in a law enforcement operation? The masked, and in many cases, minimally trained officers have dragged pregnant mothers, pepper sprayed children, placed their knees on the necks of American citizens. And recently, they detained a 5-year-old. This is Liam Ramos, 5 years old. Detained him, used him as bait to lure his family members out of their home. Then they shipped him to a detention facility 1,000 miles away, 5 years old. Were you ever trained to use a 5-year-old as bait to get his family members to open the door? Were you trained to do that, and would you countenance one of your officers doing that?
I'm not familiar with that.
I'm not asking you about this situation. I'm saying, were you trained, and would you allow a child to be used in a law enforcement operation? Would you allow your officers to do it?
I'm not familiar with that case. It's not part of our training.
We gave Greenland back to Denmark.
So that's not true.
NATO has treated the United States of America very unfairly. We never asked for anything. We never got anything.
Neither's that.
I haven't been able to find any wind farms in China.
And on that, here's a picture of a wind farm in China, which you can see from space. Those are just some of the false claims President Trump made during his address at the World Economic Forum. Let's start with Greenland. Trump claimed the US gave Greenland back to Denmark after the Second World War, but Greenland was never theirs to give back. In 1933, an international court ruled that Greenland belonged to Denmark. And during the Second World War, the US and Denmark signed an agreement which let the US defend Greenland from Nazi Germany. This meant US bases could be built there, but this agreement never said anything about Greenland becoming a US territory. He was also wrong on NATO, saying the US hasn't gotten anything from the organisation. One of NATO's key purposes is laid out in Article 5 of its treaty, which says that an attack against one of its members will be considered an attack against all. This means members can take collective military action in response to international crises. The US is the only country to trigger this article, which it did after the 9/11 attacks in 2001. This led to military support from NATO members, including the UK, during the US's invasion of Afghanistan. Lastly, Trump said he wasn't able to find any wind farms in China, but one of the largest wind farms in the world is literally in China. And China actually generates way more wind power than any other country. In fact, it generates more than double the amount the US produces.
Does everyone else think it's a nice Jewish family? From the outside, you appear to be a nice Jewish girl.
Definitely.
And you all are worshiping the devil inside the home?
Right. There's other Jewish families across the country. It's not just my own family.
Really? Things. You don't have to give us the gory details, but what kinds of things went on in the family?
Well, there would be rituals in which babies would be sacrificed, and you would have to, you know...
Whose babies?
There were people who bred babies in our family. No one would know about it. A lot of people were overweight, so you couldn't tell if they were pregnant or not. Or they would supposedly go away for a while and then come back.
Anyway, so you witnessed the sacrifice?
Right. When I was very young, I was forced to participate in that, in which I had to sacrifice an infant.
And the purpose of sacrifice is to what? Is to bring you what? What are you sacrificing for?
For power.
Power.
The fact that this interview was banned and removed proves that they're not only controlling the system, but they're the one who made the system, and now they're rubbing it in our face. Good morning, America.
An ICE agent literally came over to me and said, "What did you say?" I said, "I am not afraid," and they pointed a gun in my face. ICE put handcuffs on my hands and put me in a black SUV. And then a few moments later, they came back and they said, "Are you afraid yet?" And I said, "No." And then they said it. "Well, you're white. You wouldn't be fun anyway." It was then that I knew that this staging, that these ICE raids are really about fear and intimidation.
Starting on day one, we will end inflation and make America affordable again. But the word affordability is a Democrat scam. One of my top priorities will be to quickly defeat inflation and make America affordable again. I don't want to hear about the affordability. We will make America affordable again. We're going to make it affordable again. You know, there's this fake narrative that the Democrats talk about, affordability. Affordability is a con job. We will target everything from car affordability to housing affordability. You know, this whole thing is, they use the word affordability. It's a Democrat hoax.
There's a reason Trump did not want those files released. The Epstein files are out, and I am deeply disturbed. I want to share and preserve this information. The DOJ has already tried to take down some of the stuff they've posted, so I'm going to post it here. I have screenshots, and I'm going to go through some of the worst of the worst. Donald Trump, the president, had parties at Mar-a-Lago called Calendar Girls. Jeffrey Epstein would bring the children in, and Trump would auction them off. He measured the children's vulva and vaginas by entering a finger and rated the children on tightness. The guests were elder men and included Elon Musk, Don Jr. Trump, Ivanka Trump, girl really, and Eric Trump. It later says they were taken in rooms, forced to give oral sex to Donald Trump, forced to allow them to penetrate these children. The individual here is 13 years old when this happened. This one, like, made me feel sick to my core, but somehow it manages to get worse. Like, it goes down the path of murder. There's a story in here of a woman who went out with her friend to Trump Plaza. Her friend wanted to meet Trump. Some unidentified man came up and said he could help her meet Trump, gave her a drink, and she blacked out. When she woke up, she was in a room naked with $300 on the bed. She was sore, said she remembered seeing a flash of Trump's face, called her friend, told her friend what had happened, and then disappeared. A lot of people have been disappearing. Another story of a girl who was forced to perform oral sex on President Trump 35 years ago. At the time, she was 13 or 14 years old. She allegedly bit President Trump while performing oral sex, and then when she laughed about biting him, he hit her across the face. This one freaks me out a lot. Someone reported she was a victim and witness to a sex trafficking ring at the Trump golf course between 1995 and 1996. She reported Ghislaine Maxwell as a madam and broker for sex parties, clients of whom included Epstein, Robin Leach, and Donald Trump. She reported participating in orgies and that some girls went missing, more people going missing, rumored to have been murdered and buried at the facility. She reported being threatened by Trump's then head of security that if she ever talked of what went on there or who she saw, she would, quote, end up as fertilizer for the back 9 holes like the other cunts. Straight to hell with all these people. Other high-profile sex parties, dealings with cartels, having witnessed Robin Leach strangle a young girl to death at a party. Like, this stuff just keeps getting worse and worse. My biggest fear of these Epstein files being released, on top of fearing that we're not going to see these people brought to justice, that they're going to get away with it again, literally get away with murder, is what is going to happen next. He's going to do something. This is what Trump does. He does something to retaliate. If he feels like something bad might happen to him, he will make sure something bad happens to you first.
In Minneapolis, this family with 6 children, with one as young as 6 months old, got kind of caught in the incident as they were driving to basketball practice. ICE released a canister of tear gas, and the mother described giving her infant CPR. We're showing that video there.
The family was caught up in that situation because of violent protesters that were impeding law enforcement operations.
They've got an 11-year-old, 7-year-old, 4-year-old twins, 2-year-old, and the 6-month-old baby in a van. And the 2 parents. They're driving back from the basketball game. They run into a bunch of ICE agents blocking their path, and they start screaming at them. They're like, get out of here, get out of here. They're like, well, get out of our way. We'll get out of here. You know, and they're worried because the parents later said they're worried about Renee Good, what happened to her. So they're like freaking out. And then they feel an explosion under the car. The car lifts up off the ground. Airbags release. The doors all lock. So now they're trapped in the car, and the car's filling up with gas, and all the kids are getting tear gassed. Neighbors run out of the houses. They pull the kids out of the car. And the last one they pull out of the van is the infant, who's not breathing and not conscious, and the mother starts doing CPR on the baby, but like can't really breathe herself, and so she was like having trouble. She begs the ICE agents ICE agents are standing around, don't do anything, begging the ICE agents to let the EMTs through. They won't. Finally, a Minneapolis police officer gets through the ICE agents, gets the baby, brings them to the hospital, and then the baby starts breathing again. And this family is like completely traumatized. The first tweet from the Department of Homeland Security is, these parents are violent agitators who should not have brought their children to a protest. Then they delete it because they're liars. Tricia McLaughlin's a fucking liar. Disgusting.
the worst, now their new line is, well, it's the protesters' fault. Because since there were protesters nearby, the protesters forced the ICE agents to explode a canister under a car that they knew was carrying 6 children because they had been talking to the people. Is there no apology coming to this? Like, no apology, no, like, we will try to do better, no nothing. Like, Kristi Noem just stands there, sits there, looks at Margaret Brennan, and has, like, just no emotion about it whatsoever. Like, no fucking empathy for this family. She's a grandmother, she's a mother, nothing.
The FBI and the Department of Justice are now panicking because they published 30,000 new Epstein file documents, but misredacting Donald Trump's name. One of the files is a postcard from Jeffrey Epstein to a man named Larry Nassar. Larry Nassar was an Olympic doctor who was sentenced to 175 years in jail after 160 girls who had been on the Olympic team testified against him raping and sexually assaulting them. Jeffrey Epstein sent Larry Nassar a postcard on August 13, 2019, when Donald Trump was our current president, that reads, "Dear LN, we shared one thing, our love and caring for young ladies at the hope they'd reach their full potential. Our president shares our love for young nubile girls. When a young beauty walked by, he loved to grab, snatch. Whereas we ended up snatching grub in the mess halls of the system, meaning he's mad he's in jail for liking young girls." Mind you, the part that sticks out about this is Jeffrey Epstein saying that our president likes to grab, snatch, because Donald Trump himself told us where he likes to grab young women.
Grab him by the pussy. I can do anything.
Now, if you look at the bottom right here, you can see that this document has a code. The number in this document was EFTA 0003608. But overnight, this went mega viral, so the Department of Justice removed this file from the website and resequenced it to another number. And if you notice, they separated the front of the postcard from the text. They did that to confuse people, because if you read the card without the context of the year, there's no way to verify which president he was referring to. But when they aren't together on the same page, there's only one president we had in 2019. But the next document is the bombshell, which specifically names Donald Trump as a rapist. Victim asked limousine driver about his time driving a limousine for 2 years in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. During the time, the driver said that he met Donald Trump. The driver reported some of the things President Trump had spoken about during the ride while on his cell phone were very concerning. Trump continuously stated the name Jeffrey while on the phone and made references to abusing some girl. As the driver talked about his time meeting Donald Trump, the girl immediately changed her demeanor and became stone cold and stated, "He raped me." Donald J. Trump had raped her along with Jeffrey Epstein. The victim noted, "Some girl with a funny name, could it have been Ghislaine Maxwell, took me into a fancy hotel or building, and that's how it happened." The driver advised the victim to call the police regarding the incident, as the girl said, "I can't, they will kill me." And here's the worst part. On Christmas Day, the girl contacted the driver and finally told him that she talked to the police. The driver then told her that she had done good, but then didn't hear from her until January 10th of 2000, when the police found the victim with her head blown off in Oklahoma, and the officers ruled it a suicide. And we know the Department of Justice is panicking because they just put out a statement saying some of these documents contain untrue and sensationalist claims made against President Trump that were submitted to the FBI right before the 2020 election. To be clear, the claims are unfounded and false. If they had a shred of credibility, they certainly would have been weaponized against President Trump already. And we know this is a crock of bullshit because out of all the people that are named and listed in that Epstein file, there's only one person the Department of Justice seems to want to protect, and that's Donald Trump.
He wants the files released, but won't release them. He's focused on affordability by building a $300 million ballroom. He deserves a Nobel Peace Prize, but threatens war with Venezuela. He'll bring down prices on day one, but beef prices are at record highs. He's America first, but has a $40 billion bailout for Argentina. He's for the working class, but giving tax cuts to billionaires. He has a terrific healthcare plan, but won't tell us what it is. He's protecting federal buildings, but tore down the east wing of the White House. He's cutting waste, fraud, and abuse, but added $2 trillion to the national debt this year. He wants men out of women's locker rooms, but walked into a teenage beauty pageant's dressing room. He's closing down the border, but opening it up for white South Africans. He's a Christian, but never goes to church. He's a businessman, but always goes bankrupt. He loves the military, but dodged the draft. He wants law and order, but he's a convicted criminal. He backs the blue, but not at the U.S. Capitol. He does all this, and you, my American friends, still support him. After 30,000 lies, 6 bankruptcies, 5 draft deferments, 4 indictments, 3 wives, 2 impeachments, and 1 insurrection. After COVID, tariffs, ICE raids, government shutdowns, bribes, corruption, pardons, selective prosecutions, illegal drug boat strikes, unconstitutional executive orders, and months of chaos. Because at this point, my dear Americans, submissive fellow journalists, spineless members of Congress, corrupt business leaders, cowardly university presidents, enabling law firms, out-of-touch rappers, and anyone else who normalizes this shit show, he's not the problem. You are.
This one's in Thailand.
I've been to Thailand before.
Have you?
Beautiful.
Beautiful, beautiful.
What comes with the island?
There's a small villa there. You could practically build what you want.
There's building space.
Yeah, there's.
Do the islands come with the children, or the children?
This island does have a small school. There are children.
Okay, so I don't know if that was a
Yeah.
What countries are near to abduct them from?
Cambodia, Thailand, Laos, Vietnam,
Philippines.
The Philippines.
Of course.
The Filipinos, if they're not being a nurse, they're being your crew. Okay, so.
True.
Yeah. So.
What age ranges?
Below 10, I don't really.
This is one of the most disturbing immigration stories of the year, and it should piss you off. A 22-year-old mother from Minnesota, Kimberlyn Yaritza Menjivar Aguilar, has just been deported to Honduras without her 8-month-old baby. Yes, they sent the mother to another country and kept her infant here. And the way that it happened? Absolutely outrageous. Kimberlyn was attending a fingerprinting appointment for her approved work permit, doing everything legally, everything by the book, when ICE agents walked up to her, asked if the baby was hers, asked if she was breastfeeding, and then put her in handcuffs behind her back. Imagine that. You're trying to finalize your work permit and they leave you in chains. Her lawyer says she even signed a document saying she could take her baby with her if she were deported, and ICE still removed her alone, leaving her infant behind. This woman crossed the Rio Grande at 17 to escape gangs trying to recruit her. She lived here for years. She built a life in Minnesota and South Dakota. She's raising a baby with her partner, and she was granted deferred action, meaning the government agreed not to deport her. But now DHS is calling her a criminal illegal alien, even though reporters found no criminal charges. They're bragging about following the rule of law while separating a mother from her 8-month-old. And here's the kicker. When she was detained in September, she had just been approved for a special immigrant juvenile visa, the exact protection designed for young people fleeing danger. Now she's in Honduras, crying on Zoom from her parents' house. Her baby is in the US, and she's begging for one thing. All I want is to be with my family, my baby, and my partner. This is what our immigration system is doing. This is the justice some people claim to be proud of. A mother, deported, alone, baby left behind. Tell me how that's acceptable.
The Epstein files are vanishing this morning. Do you remember this file that had multiple horrific allegations against Donald Trump? Including this, which alleged that he held parties called Calendar Girls at Mar-a-Lago with Jeffrey Epstein, in which he auctioned off children and touched their private parts. Well, they're all gone. But get this. In 2016, the New York Times reported on Trump's Calendar Girl competitions, in which dozens of girls were flown into Mar-a-Lago for parties with Trump and Epstein.
In Trump's inaugural address, remember this promise?
Never again will the immense power of the state be weaponized to persecute political opponents. Something I know something about. We will not allow that to happen. It will not happen again. Under my leadership, we will restore fair, equal, and impartial justice under the constitutional rule of law.
Needless to say, that didn't happen. He's weaponized the Justice Department to go after practically any public official who's opposed him. Most recently, the governor of Minnesota and the mayor of Minneapolis over their criticism of ISIS occupation of their state. And don't forget Trump's claim he would not start pointless wars.
We will measure our success not only by the battles we win, but also by the wars that we end, and perhaps most importantly, the wars we never get into.
But a year later, Trump appears to be trying to take over Greenland and threatening tariffs on allies who oppose him, calling for new leadership in Iran, and dabbling in something akin to regime change in Venezuela. And that's just this week. Then, of course, there are the kitchen table issues.
I will direct all members of my cabinet to marshal the vast powers at their disposal to defeat what was record inflation and rapidly bring down costs and prices.
As you know, if you've been to a grocery store, prices are not down like Trump promised. They are actually up on a range of necessities, from grocery store items to energy. But voters are noticing these broken promises on nearly every issue Trump campaigned on and told voters he would fix, quote, immediately once getting back into the White House. Trump is polling underwater.
Let me get this straight. The President of the United States, the whole United States, said as of February 1st, he is going to cut money to entire cities and states that do not obey him. Not because they broke the law, not because Congress voted on it, but because they won't fall in line. That money is not his money to give or to cut off. It's our money. It's money for schools, hospitals, disaster relief, housing. And he's going to hold it hostage if we're not loyal to him. He's not cutting off criminals. He's cutting off actual people. So now presidents can decide which cities deserve help based on political obedience.
Additionally, starting February 1st, we're not making any payments to sanctuary cities or states having sanctuary cities because they do everything possible to protect criminals at the expense of American citizens, and it breeds fraud and crime and all of the other problems that come. So we're not making any payment to anybody that supports sanctuary cities.
Yeah, if he and every single one of his little crooks are not removed, we're fucked.
Treasury's Epstein file details, Mr. President, 4,725 wire transfers. Let me repeat that. 4,725 wire transfers, adding up to nearly $1.1 billion flowing in and out of just one of Mr. Epstein's bank accounts. If you ask me, that is more than 4,000 potential lines of investigation right there. Hundreds of millions more flowed through other accounts. That's even a lot more to investigate. The file shows that Mr. Epstein used multiple Russian banks, which are now under sanctions, to process payments related to sex trafficking. A lot of the women and girls he targeted came from Russia, Belarus, Turkey, and elsewhere.
How many United States military veterans have you deported?
Sir, we have not deported U.S. citizens or military veterans.
Madam Secretary, we are joined on Zoom by a gentleman named Se-Jun Park. He is a United States Army combat veteran who was shot twice while serving our country in Panama in 1989. He is a combat veteran, a Purple Heart recipient. Earlier this year, you deported him to Korea, a country he hasn't lived in since he was 7 years old. Will you join me in thanking Mr. Park for his service to our country?
Sir, I'm grateful for every single person that has served our country and follows our law.
So I just came out of a meeting that I want to tell you about. These two families that just came out of detention at the detention center that I got denied access to were willing to tell me their story. And it's a story of just grave inhumanity. And I think it's really important that you know what's happening to these families. These are two families, both with really young kids, both playing by the rules. Neither one of them were trying to sneak into the country. They both came here, presented for asylum, had showed up for all of their hearings. And both families, when they came to do their check-in for their appointed court time were taken by ICE, playing by the rules, trying to apply for asylum, and they were taken into custody. These were adults with children. These two boys were elementary school age, the other little boys very young. And what they described is just fundamentally un-American. It's fundamentally inhumane. The two boys, you could see on their face that something had changed inside them in this facility. They were there for over a month through Christmas. They were coming for a routine check-in. Their mom was dropping them and their father off. The backpacks for their school day were still in the car. They went in for their routine check-in and the boys never came back out. They would call their mom and say, it's December 20th, 5 days to Christmas. It's December 22nd, 3 days to Christmas. Mom, am I coming home? Am I coming home? The other young boy, very young, talked about the detention center as the ugly place. And his little house in San Antonio was the beautiful place that he wanted to get back to. He had a bad ear infection when he was detained and they had no appropriate medical attention for him. These kids have had scarring from this experience that is likely never, ever going away. And you need to know what's happening to these kids and to these families. There were tears, straight tears, for the entire hour that we were talking. Donald Trump says that he's going after the worst of the worst, that he's targeting criminals. No, he's not. No, he's not. These families have legitimate asylum claims. They were in the middle of going through the legal process. They were in the United States legally. And they got ripped out of the courtroom and put in detention because it has nothing to do with human beings. It just has to do with numbers and terrorizing families. So I'm really grateful to these families for sharing this with me. I was at these detention centers today. I couldn't get in. I'm furious about that. Tomorrow morning, I'm going to meet with more community providers that are helping families. I'm going to be in one of these courtrooms to see for myself what's happening. But beyond the numbers, beyond the policy, this is about kids' lives, kids' brains who are being fundamentally damaged and changed by the inhumanity of Donald Trump's immigration policy.
The deadline for the Trump administration to release the files was over a month ago.
And to date, only 1% of the files have been released. That means there are more than 5 million pages left.
Those are documents and photos that Trump and Pam Bondi are refusing to release in order to protect Epstein, his billionaire friends, and the horrific things that they did to women and girls.
We have met with survivors and heard their heartbreaking stories. We recently secured subpoenas for some of Epstein's closest associates, including Les Wexner.
While Trump and his pedophile protector party continue to give cover for sex criminals.
Democrats on the Oversight Committee are working overtime to get these files released.
We will bring anyone who had any involvement in these crimes to justice.
And to Pam Bondi, it's only a matter of time. Because when Trump's out of office, you'll be held accountable too. Release the files now.
I will fight to end Obamacare and replace it.
You're going to have to get rid of Obamacare. I think you'll probably have to scrap the whole thing.
Obamacare has to be changed.
Repeal and replace with something terrific.
I will ask Congress to convene a special session so we can repeal and replace.
Really terrific, I believe, healthcare plan coming out.
We have 2 plans coming out. We're going to come up with a health care plan. We're not going to vote on it until after the election. The plan is coming out over the next 4 weeks.
We already have the concept of the plan. We'll be announcing that in about 2 months, maybe less.
We're signing a health care plan within 2 weeks. It's just about completed now.
It is developed. It is fully developed. It's going to be announced very soon.
We're going to give you great health care. That's what we're going to give you. And I'm not saying anything about Obama. If maybe we'll make it better. Maybe we'll change it.
You still do not have a plan.
I have concepts of a plan. I'm not president right now.
I'm just happy that it is over. I feel good about it. It's behind us. What does this feel like? I don't know that I have words for that yet.